Ethical issues and problems in business ethics and corporate world. First is office romance. Office romance is a relationship between two people who are both employed by one organization. It's a mutual attraction between two people who desires for a personal romantic relationship. Office romance happens because men and women work together and they tend to have an attraction with each other, and 25 to 33% are engaged in office romance. In this ethical issue, the company's stand to it is they are caught in the middle because the top management doesn't want to interfere with employees' personal affair, and at the same time, the organization does not want their other employees to have an uncomfortable workplace. But this ethical issue has its advantage. First off is friendship. Why friendship? Because it creates a strong bond and connection between the employees. Second is, as their bond grows stronger, it will develop the employees to have a mutual support for each other. Then they will help one another either if they have a problem in work or in their personal life. Another advantage is that it will be a reason to keep their jobs because of the bond and relationship they have. It will cause retention to the employees. Lastly, it is a venue to find a better half and keep a long-term relationship. Why? Because they have been working together and they have already adjusted with one another. So they have witnessed on how he or she works and what is his or her personality. Because it's an issue, here are the disadvantages of office romance. First, it can damage on profession reputation because having a relationship can damage the professionalism at work. For example, boss and subordinate. Second is having a relationship inside the organization has a great impact on other employees, and a lot of employees that surround the couple can see them, and them knowing that they have a relationship can greatly affect their mindset that the boss will show favor to its partner. That's why favoritism, unfair treatment, and biased decision can arise. Another, it can also change productivity. Instead of focusing and doing some work, they will chat with each other or do something instead of working. Dating the boss is the most disturbing type of romance because it changes the working environment. Lastly is extramarital affairs. Because men and women are working together and some are married, they can be developed with each other. Ethical issues of workplace romance. First is legal ethical consideration. Discrimination if person involved will be separated. For example, when the couple separates, they tend to have unresolved problems and it may be shown in the workplace. Another example is that if they have a project and they are working together, one couple can suggest ideas even if it's good and the other can ignore it. Second is it can lead to sexual harassment. Because of unresolved problems and sometimes couple can be bitter after breakup, it can lead to sexual harassment if one files it.
Sexual harassment. So what is sexual harassment? According to dictionaries, uninvited and unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature, especially by a person in authority toward a subordinate. Therefore, sexual harassment may lead to hostile and unhealthy workplace for the employees. Philippine culture has long tolerated and even encouraged sexual harassment by even joking about it. There are many women who are afraid to lose their jobs or fail their subject in school learn to be quiet even when they harass. On that note, the Congress of the Philippines Executive, the Anti-Sexual Act 1995 or Republic Act 7877 that declares an act affirming sexual harassment unlawful in the employment, education, or training environment and for another purposes. According to Dole, workplace harassment may also consist of offensive conduct based one or more of the protected groups above that is so severe or pervasive that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision, such as being tortured or demoted. Two types of sexual harassment: quid pro quo, or this for that, and a harassment that creates a hostile environment. Quid pro Q or this for that. This type of harassment uses his position or power to get a sexual desire to his or her employees in exchange for benefits like promotion, transfer, or pay raise. And lastly, a harassment that creates a hostile environment. From the word hostile, according to Merriam-Webster, is having or showing unfriendly feelings, or in short, it is unwelcome environment that cause an uncomfortable feeling that it can affect to their jobs. This type of harassment are cause of verbal, physical, and visual conduct that create an unpleasant or offensive in the workplace. It may be based on race, religion, national origin, sex, age, marital status, sexual orientation, or disability. The profile of the victim and the harasser. The victims are commonly the employees, co-workers, or non-employee, and while the harasser are commonly the supervisor, manager, or maybe the owner or the boss. Both men and women can be the victims or harasser, but commonly the victims is the innocent people because that type of person can easily follow the harasser once. So, how to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace? There are two: um, a broad anti-harassment or positive environment policy, and separate sexual harassment policy. These are the policy that can protect all employees in the organization. The the broad anti-harassment or positive environment policy, it focuses on anti-sexual harassment in the workplace, while the separate sexual harassment policy, it covers the protection of the non-management employees and management. So, and for those who are violating this policy, there are legal penalties of Republic Act 7877. Imprisonment of not less than 1 month but not more than 6 months, and fine of not less than 10,000 pesos but not more than 20,000 pesos.
Gift giving and bribery. Gift giving, an act of extending goodwill to an individual in an effort to share something with them. It is an expression of gratitude for a gift received, normally observed during special occasions like Christmas, New Year, and sometimes even during birthdays. In business, it is an expression of gratitude to the customers or business partners for patronizing the goods and services that they offer. Business usually engage in gift giving for the following reasons: to show appreciation for a favor received, to effectively establish goodwill with business partners, to advertise, to compete effectively against competitors. These are the common forms of gift giving. Samples: raffle coupons or certificates, rebates or cash refunds, padding, premiums, patronage awards, tie-up promotions, allowance, free goods, tips, and prizes. Is gift giving ethical or unethical? Difficult to determine the morality of gift giving. Most agree that accepting and receiving bribe is a professional ethics. It's hard to determine what is and is not a bribe. Rules not clear. For professionals and people in the business world, the rules are not so clear and identified. But a number of considerations can help one determine the morality of giving and receiving gifts in the business situations. Factors in determining the morality of gift giving. First, value of the gift. Is the gift nominal value or is it substantial enough to influence a business decision? Second, purpose of the gift. As long as the gift is not intended or received as a bribe and remains nominal, there doesn't appear to be any serious problem. Third, circumstances under which the gift was given or received. A gift given during holiday season for a store opening or one attached to a special event is circumstantially different from one unattached to any special event or occasions. Fourth, position between or relationship of the giver and receiver. Could the recipient's opinion, influence, or decision result in preferential treatment in favor of the donor? Fifth, acceptable business practice in the industry. Could the act be considered acceptable in this kind of business? Sixth, company policy. If the firms explicitly forbid the practice of giving and receiving gifts to its customers, vendors, or suppliers, associates, or corporate directors, then gift giving would be normally wrong. 7. Laws and regulations. Certain federal, state, or local government institutions may impose laws that forbid accepting gifts from firms which they do businesses. Bribery. It is intended to induce people inside the business or other organizations to make decisions that would not be justifiable according to normal business or other criteria. It is something valuable such as money that is given in order to get someone to do something. Example of bribery. A motorist offers a certain amount of money to a police officer in order not to be issued a ticket for overspeeding. A narcotic smuggler bribes a judge to lessen criminal penalties. In business, a company official offered to have $10,000 transferred into an offshore account belonging to an inspector in order to obtain a favorable inspection report. Both the company officer and the inspector would be guilty of bribery in business offenses. Bribery is obviously unethical because of the following reasons. It is generally used as an instrument to gain personal or corporate advantage. It corrupts the concept of justice and equality. Bribery produces cynicism and a general distrust of institutions. It destroys people's trust in the integrity of professional services, of government and the courts, of law enforcement, their religion, and anything it touches. It treats people as commodities whose honor can be bought and sold. It thus tends to degrade the respect we owe to other human beings. Bribery is not how things get done.
The morality of advertising. Advertising, according to Philip Kotler, is any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of ideas, goods, or services by an identified sponsor. According to Wells, Burnett, and Moriarty, advertising is paid non-personal communication from an identified sponsor using mass media to persuade or influence an audience. There are a lot of benefits when it comes to advertising, and its economic benefits is that it informs the people about the availability of products, and it helps consumers to make informed and prudent decisions on deciding what to buy a product, and it contributes to the efficiency and lowering of the prices, and it stimulates economic progress through the expansion of business and trade. It also creates new jobs, higher income, and more decent and humane way of life for all. Its political benefit is it makes contribution to democracy analogous to its contribution to economic well-being in a market system guided by moral norms, and it also helps counteract tendency toward the monopolization of power on the part of oligarchies and special interests. and it informs people about the ideas and policy proposals of parties and candidates, including new candidates not previously known to the public. Its cultural benefits is it has an opportunity to exert a positive influence on decisions about media content, and it can contribute to betterment of society, and it also can brighten lives because there are a lot of advertisement that can really brings joy to the people. And its moral and religious benefit is it helps benevolent social institutions to communicate their message. Advertising can also be a way for organizations to promote what their goals, their messages to the public. The morality of advertising, it talks about the issues of advertising, and the most common issue on advertising is the deceptive advertising. It talks about giving false information or lying about a certain product to attract customers, or it's just lying or representing the product without any statement. It may occur through sentences or propositions, pictures, individual words, or combination of objects that can deceive the mind and the eye of the consumers. Um, Exaggeration is also an issue when it comes to advertising. It talks about advertising making false claim about the product or making their product even better, so the public will um, tend to buy the product more. And its psychological appeals are it arouses human emotional needs rather than reason. It contains elements that satisfy the subconscious desire, and it also shows power, prestige, personal enjoyment, and even masculinity. And it also plays a serious moral concern. Ads directed at children. Business experts said that children are the most pure customers and they're a special group of consumers. For example, in the States, they spend more than $12 billion just to create ads directed at children because children are most likely to bug their parents to buy a certain product. For an example, they saw a product an ad on the television for a food or toy. um, they would most likely bug their parents to buy the product once they saw it, especially when um, it's really great and it's really eye catching for the children. Now we're going to talk about the Philippine laws on advertising. The Consumer Act of the Philippines, or the Republic Act 7394, it's stated on the Article 108 or 108, the Declaration of Policy. The state shall protect the consumer from misleading advertisement and fraudulent sales and promotion practices. It talk also also on Article 110, false, deceptive, and misleading advertisement. It shall be unlawful for any false, deceptive, or misleading advertisement by Philippine mail or in commerce by print, radio, television, outdoor advertisement, or other medium for the purpose of inducing of which is likely to induce directly or indirectly the purchase of consumer products or services. There are 5 rules that must be followed when it comes to food, drug, cosmetic device, or other hazardous substances. The first is no claim in the advertisement should be made that is not contained in the label or approved by the Department of Health. The second is it is unlawful to advertise any food, drug, cosmetic device, or hazardous substances that is false, misleading, or deceptive, or is likely to create an erroneous impression regarding its character, value, quantity, composition, merit, or safety. The third one is where a standard has been prescribed for a food, drug, cosmetic, or device. No person shall advertise any article or substance in a manner that is likely to be mistaken for such product unless the product actually complies with the prescribed standard. The fourth is advertisements for any food, drug, cosmetic, device, or hazardous substances may not make use of any reference to any laboratory department of analysis required to be submitted to the Department of Health unless such laboratory report is duly approved by the Department of Health. The last rule is no advertisements for any food, drug, cosmetic, device, or hazardous substances may be allowed unless such product is duly registered and approved by the Department of Health. In 1958, advertisers formed the Philippine Association of National Advertisers. Since then, the Philippine Association of National Advertisers has been engaged in continuing campaign to regulate abuses committed by untruthful advertisers. Um, the Philippine Association of National Advertisers issued a code of ethics which includes the following statements of general principles. First is good advertising recognizes both its economic and social responsibility to help reduce distribution costs and to serve the public interest. Second is good advertising depends for its success on public confidence, hence it cannot permit those practices that tend to impair this confidence. Third is good advertising aims to inform the consumer and help him buy intelligently. Fourth is good advertising tells the truth, it is accurate, honest, and trustworthy. It avoids exaggerations, misstatements of facts, as well as possible deceptions, true implications, or omission. Fifth is good advertising conforms not only to the laws but also to the generally accepted standards of good taste and decency into moral and aesthetic sentiments of the country. It avoids any practice or statements which may be offensive to the public as a whole or to any particular group, class, or race. Good advertising seeks public acceptance on the basis of positive and constructive statements made on the merits of the product or service advertised, rather than by the disparagement of competition. Good advertising does not allow any activity that involves the exploitation of goodwill attached to any other firm, product, or service. It does not imitate or stimulate trademarks, firm names, packages, labels, and such advertising devices as illustrations, copy, layouts, or slogans. And lastly, good advertising helps to dignify the individual and contribute to the building of a civilized society.
Fair pricing. Price is a measure of value in exchange. It may be expressed in monetary term as a financial or currency, while non-monetary term is the opposite. It is a barter, a goods or services. Pricing a product should always be fair. It is something every organization should value. There are price theories that should be considered. First is the cost theory of prices. It is an assumption of how much cost of the resources you gained in making a product and the price depend on it to have a reasonable outcome. In this theory, fair pricing depends on the factors behind of each product. Secondly is the market theory of prices. In this view, the value is supposed to give some measure of usefulness. The more useful the product, the higher the price is. What makes a price fair? Fair means acceptable and just. Acceptable. A fair price is satisfactory. It means it is a personal fairness that when you buy a product, it gratifies your needs. Just. Judgment that the price has been justified. It is a social fairness, an objectivity between the individual and society. Why price for a product or services? Man is entitled to enjoy the fruits of his labor. This means that every organization has a desired result in the workplace. Whatever you give to your customers will affect the success of your business. Secondly, is price depends on the law of supply and demand. Stating a price always depends on the value of a product. to the customers in their needs and wants. The prices may rise or fall where the quantity goes, and it rises when demanded falls, or vice versa. Market structures. Sellers would normally ask for a higher price and buyers offer less than they expect. Through bargaining, each would arrive at a fair market value reasonable to both parties. There are two types of market structures. First is a market competition structures, sometimes referred as a pure competition. It is like a real-life market structures. The more competitors, the harder to maintain fixed price. The price set balanced to the willingness of the buyer. The best product offers a lower price. Secondly is the imperfect competition. It appears on the demand or supply side. The conditions of transaction depend on the fixed costs and prices. Just or unjust price. According to Thomas Aquinas, buying and selling were instituted for the common good of both parties since each needs the products of the other. Therefore, the contract between them should rest upon an equality of things to things. The measure of the value of a thing which is exchanged should be given by its money price. To sell a thing dearer or to buy a thing cheaper than its worth is unjust. A buyer and seller must consider the worth or usefulness of each product. Success of a business depends on the profit they earn. Setting prices should be fair depending on its cost used. Business must set a standard who gain not only a reasonable profit but also gaining a loyalty customers.
The morality of labor and strike. Strike action, or simply strike, describes collective action undertaken by groups of workers in the form of refusal to work. This is a tactic often employed by labor unions during collective bargaining with an employer. Usual reasons why employees go on strikes is for higher compensation, for their workplace to improve, for shorter working hours or days, or to stop salary or wage decreases. The Labor Code of the Philippines, Presidential Decree Number 442 states that coverage in employees' right to self-organization. All persons employed in commercial, industrial, and agricultural enterprises and in religious, charitable, medical, or educational institutions, whether operating for profit or none, shall have the right of self-organization and to form, join or assist labor organizations of their own choosing for purposes of collective bargaining. Types of strike. Sit-down strike. A sit-down strike is a strike in which workers show up to work but refuses to work. It may include preventing transports from entering or leaving in an institution or a company. General strike is a strike affecting all areas of a labor force across many industries, typically throughout an entire country or a large section thereof. Sympathy strike is a strike initiated by workers in one industry and supported by workers in a separate but related industry. Union labor practice strike is an action taken by an employer that is believed to be inimical to the interests of an employee organization. Economic strike is based on a demand for better wages or benefits than the employer wants to provide. Slowdown strike is a form of work stoppage in which employees deliberately reduce their individual production. And last, recognition strike is a kind of strike forcing employers to recognize and deal with them. Whistleblowing. The disclosure by a person, usually an employee in a government, agency, or private enterprise to the public or to those in authority. Whistleblowing is the disclosure by an employee of confidential information which relatives which relates to some danger, fraud, or other illegal or unethical conduct connected with the workplace, be it of an employer or of his fellow employees. A whistleblower is a person who exposes any kind of information or activity that is deemed illegal, unethical, or not correct within an organization that is either private or public. A whistleblower is someone in an organization who witnesses behavior by members that is either contrary to the mission of the organization or threatening to the public interest, and who decides to speak out publicly about it. There are 6 types of whistleblowing. One is internal whistleblowing. It occurs within the organization. It is going over the head of immediate supervisors to inform higher management of the wrongdoing. External whistleblowing number 2 occurs outside the organization. It is revealing to outside individuals or groups such as media men, public interest groups, regulatory body, or non-government organizations. Number 3, current. Those who blow the whistle on present employers. Number 4 is alumni. Those who blow the whistle on former employees. Number 5 is open. The whistleblower discloses his identity. And number 6, anonymous whistleblowing. The whistleblower does not disclose his identity.